Hey everyone, this is Sohan and welcome to my guide to performing a 5-mask AFK carry in the Horrific Vision of Ogrimmar. In this video, we'll be looking at an overview of a 5-mask carry, the requirements for the AFK party, and some recommendations for those looking to start carrying runs themselves. Finally, we'll have a look at a run I did earlier with some play-by-play commentary. A 5-mask AFK carry is a 2-person vision with all 5 masks active, where one person AFKs until the final boss fight, while another clears the vision on their own. This is primarily done to enable those who cannot solo a 5-mask to receive the same reward, specifically a guaranteed 470 corrupted item. It's significantly harder to perform than a 5-mask solo run, and as such is the natural progression for those looking to push themselves in visions. The requirements to AFK are quite minimal. Firstly, you must have obtained your legendary cloak, but you do not need to have any specific rank. It is also not necessary to have unlocked any masks yourself, as the boosters masks will apply. You will, however, need to buy your own vessel from Raytheon, which will be consumed upon entry. And finally, you must hit the last boss at least once at the end when the final fight begins. That is all that is required to be eligible for the 470 corrupted item. However, if you also wish to do side areas to loot quest items for cloak upgrades or extra mementos, you will need higher cloak progression. The exact requirements will vary, but for all areas you will generally need a level 12-ish cloak. The requirements to carry the vision are quite a bit more stringent. Firstly, you should be able to very easily and consistently complete a 5-mask solo clear before even attempting a 5-mask carry. It is also worth practicing with a 4-mask carry first, with every mask but the Daredevil mask active, in order to familiarize yourself with the pace and increased difficulty. You should also have a rank 15 cloak with ideally all Titan research talents unlocked. As far as gear and builds are concerned, you should generally be running an M+ AoE type build with 470-ish equipped and strong corruption such as Twilight's Devastation. Corruption should generally be kept below 40 until you are confident in your ability to deal with Grand Illusions, as untimely procs can be very risky, particularly in lost areas. Note that it is possible to change gear, talents and essences mid-vision for different situations. For example, you can save down different gear sets to quickly swap between AoE and single target corruptions and trinkets between trash pulls and boss fights. If you haven't got it already, I would strongly recommend this weak aura, which is linked in the video description. Using this, we can identify potions from the known bad potion and track their durations to avoid proccing their expiration effects in dangerous situations. Most importantly, however, we can better track our Gift of the Titans procs and internal cooldowns. This allows us to better manage our pulls, know when to wait, and know when it is safe to soak mechanics and zerg DPS. It's also worth bringing the right consumables to make things a little easier. As survivability is a greater concern here, the best food to use is the ghastly goulash, which provides excellent passive HPS. It's also a good idea to use flasks and war scrolls before you enter. Be sure to bring plenty of kebabs to help restore sanity at strategic intervals throughout the vision. I'd also recommend bringing some Drainic Living Action potions, which let you break stuns and could help you avoid a lot of damage or sanity loss should you get caught in certain mechanics. DPS potions are also useful, however be careful when you use these as they share a cooldown with the Drainic Living Action potion, which you may need in a critical moment. Finally, it's worth bringing health potions and health stones with you for quick instant healing in case things get rough. As a final point, it's worth noting that the HP of enemies inside a vision scales depending on the spec of party members, and updates dynamically if you respec during the vision. For example, if one person is spec'd as DPS and one person is healer, enemies have 21% less HP compared to if both people were DPS spec. Likewise, running one DPS and one tank will reduce enemy health by 12.5%. Since the second person is AFK anyway, it makes sense to have them change spec if possible, in order to make your job easier. It is possible for them to respec back to DPS after you resurrect them for the final boss fight, if this would be more beneficial than the reduced HP. So now I'm going to show you a run I did earlier. This is the route that I'll be taking, and the one that I personally recommend for Ogrimmar. From the start point, we will fight our way up towards Thrall so that our partner can AFK inside the hut. Next, we will go to the first corrupted area on the right, before moving to the first lost area in the Valley of Honor. Here we will kill the first mini-boss, then perform the Rexar skip through the forbidden areas to skip most of the trash in this zone. We will use our first orb into Rexar, then take the totem back to the start. We will then go left and clear our second lost area in the Valley of Wisdom. For this area we will reserve our second orb, although this may or may not be required. Finally, we will go and clear the Valley of Spirits. Now we have the optional choice of sweeping back through the vision to collect any missing crystals or chests if we wish. When ready, we will go back to the start and resurrect our partner before using our final orb into Thrall. In general, we are most likely to use our cheat death during the Rexar fight or in the Valley of Wisdom Lost area. So now we're going to start our vision. So we queue as normal after buying our vessel. And we just need to apply our masks one by one. Now the boosters masks do apply, so the person being carried doesn't need to apply any masks here. Now we've already used our Ghastly Goulash and we've already used our War Scrolls. If you want your partner to respec, this is a good time to choose the right spec. Quickly going to flash the talents I've chosen. And for corruptions, I'm using 2 Lash of the Voids and 2 Twilight Devastations. So once we've applied our masks, we trigger the vision. Now our partner has quite a low level cloak, so we're just going to AFK in front of Thrall. This is because if we were to do any of the side areas, it would be quite risky due to the very high levels of sanity loss. So we don't want to risk any out of position orb usages, or we don't use any of our own sanity to resurrect our partner if they have an extremely low level cloak. So probably you want a level 12 cloak to be able to do all areas, and you could probably do 1 or 2 areas with a slightly lower cloak. But in this particular case we will just do a full AFK run. So once we've taken out these 2 guards, we can safely AFK here. We want to AFK on the staircase inside so that we can either resurrect using our free resurrect, or when we orb into the boss, our partner will have resurrected. So we've left our friend to die there, and now we're going to go and check what potion is the bad potion. So we can see here the blue potion is the bad potion. We're going to click that into our weak aura. So now we know the good potion is the purple potion, and we're going to keep an eye out for that. Now, ideally in this hut we wanted to see the blacksmith. He's one of the NPCs that spawn, and it rotates which one's available per vision. So ideally we want the blacksmith first because it's 10% damage, which is a great buff, and it's also right at the start, so it applies to every area we're going to do. We have Gammon up instead, which is 10% stamina, and that's also a good buff. It's not as good as the damage buff, but survivability is a greater concern in the 5 mask carry, so we're still happy to take it. It's definitely worth going out of your time to get these. And there's one other buff in each of the corrupted areas. So we'll see which one we get. Just take care of this trash pack that I pulled. And as you can see, my partner's sanity is already quite low here, just from the passive drain in this particular area. So I'm going to meld past this particular pack here. We've melded past. And once we drop combat, we're going to eat our first kebab. We ideally want to be 100 sanity for starting this area. Now, the corrupted areas are actually not particularly risky in regards to dying due to damage, so you can most certainly run high levels of corruption here. The chance you die to a Grand Illusions proc is actually quite low compared to the lost areas, so you could probably get away with it here. Now, we want to take out these appendages first because they're very annoying and they keep you in combat. Now, it seems we have company here, and this has actually happened before. It's something of a bug. I don't know why it happens, but we pulled half of the first area here. So we don't want to panic. This is why we bought our health stones. This is why we bought our health potions. I use any defensive I have, so I blurred. And I'm just going to take these packs down before we start. Now, I think when this happened to me before, I actually wiped because I was caught off guard by it. And I didn't have any health potions or health stones or anything. So it's definitely worth bringing. It's definitely worth taking the time to befriend a warlock before you come in. And now we're just going to kill this first mini-boss here. Not much of a threat here either. We just have to avoid those orbs. We want to finish here with 100 sanity too, ideally, which is not particularly difficult to do, as long as we don't get caught up in any of the orbs or too many of the orbs. So I got caught in one there, but it's fine. We ended with 100 sanity. And now we're going to wake up Garona. Now we can see on top of that rock there is a purple sanity potion, which I don't need at the moment, but I could come back to. Now inside that transmog hut, that's where we wanted to have seen another NPC who spawns and provides a damage buff. So ideally you'd get the blacksmith and the transmog hut first, because then you'd have 2 damage buffs which apply to all areas, including the lost areas. So unfortunately we didn't get those, which means the other corrupted area will have our buff inside. That one's not really as useful though, because we only really get to utilize that for the thrall fights. Ideally we'd want the other ones. So get rid of these appendages. Get this guy out. Always take care of the dominators first. We don't want to get caught up in the touch of the abyss. So this first area is quite low risk. What we want to do is we want to finish this area with quite high sanity. The threat to dying here is actually quite low. As long as we pull packs one by one and we don't try to cut any corners by just pulling the whole area. So if we notice here, we have another purple potion for sanity restoration. We might come back to that. Again, we don't need it now because we're quite high and I'm just going to eat a kebab before we engage this boss. But depending on what sanity we finish this particular fight on, I might come back for that. I'm just going to switch my trinkets now to unused trinkets. Possibly help us burst down this bubble here. So this fight is quite simple. We just have to avoid these void torrents. So when they come out, just move out a little bit and run in a circle. Now, unfortunately, our trinkets are not available yet, but usually I'd use them to burst through this bubble. It's not the end of the world if you take the hit. It's only minus 18 sanity. Unless you did 0 damage to the bubble, it's probably not a large threat to you in regards to survival. Just move out for this void torrent once more. And it looks like I'm going to finish at near 100 sanity or 100 sanity here, 100%, so I won't need that potion after all. I've also procced Gift of the Titans, so yeah, won't need that potion. Moving to the next area. Now for this mini boss, we don't want to, ideally we'd want to fight him outside this corridor, because as you can see with split personality proccing here, it's kind of boxed us in, and we don't really want to be boxed in. But I think we're going to fight him inside this corridor here. We've used our trinkets, and it's pretty routine here. You just need to move out of the green stuff, move out of the purple stuff. Be careful with split personality and leaden foot. So once this mini boss is dead, we want to do the Rexar skip. So we're going to run through the outside areas, and we will skip most of the trash here. And we definitely want to do that, because once you've mastered the Rexar skip, it's far less risky than actually attempting to do the trash yourself. So it's definitely worth practicing this one. So what we want to do is, first we want to wait till we've procced split personality before we go in, because ideally we wouldn't want it to be proccing inside. And as soon as we're in a position to head off, we want to use any defenses we have, like blur or survival instincts. We could also use absorb trinkets here, like the one that drops from Mort, or the ritual bandages. So once we've used our defensives, we run inside, we mount up, and we just want to charge through here. Now I got snagged on a branch back there, so I'm slightly behind where I want to be. We just have to head up this particular zone. And I proc split personality here, so I just want to get out carefully. And I also used a Hellstone there, so it's definitely worth bringing some if you want to do the Rexar skip. So we just be careful with this guy. His headbutt is kind of annoying. Make sure you don't get headbutted outside as well. Outside of the zone. Because if you get headbutted outside and stunned, you can actually take a lot of damage. So now, as you see, we skipped most of the trash inside this zone. And the trash inside this zone is quite dangerous. So we definitely want to do the Rexar skip every single time. Now we're going to wait a minute for our cooldowns to come back up. We particularly want our Azerite beam for this one. So the strategy here is to damage Rexar as much as we can before the boars come out. And then when the boars do come out, we want to switch to the boars. Now I'm going to switch my corruption gear here, because I can actually afford to be over 40 for this fight. My chance of dying to damage is actually quite low compared to my chance of dying to sanity loss. So the trade-off here is most definitely worth it. So 30 more seconds. We're going to wait. You at least want to wait for your Gift of the Titans procs, because we'll definitely need him here. So we're going to damage Rexar. When the ball comes out, we're going to switch to the boars. The boars are an absolute priority. And when we proc Gift of the Titans, which we probably will at some point, we're going to switch back to Rexar and Zerg him down. So we also want to use our drums here. And we will have our drums back up at the end, so we want to damage Rexar as much as we can now. And out comes the first boar, so we want to interrupt the cast, we want to do some damage. And in comes the second boar, so I'm going to stun these boars now. And now I procced Gift of the Titan, so I want to swap back to Rexar and just pump as much damage as I can. I only want to swap off Rexar if it looks like he won't die in my Gift of the Titans. Then I want to make sure the boars are dead before I get out, but he comfortably dies here inside the Gift of the Titans. So that was one of the more risky encounters there. You know, sometimes you won't proc Gift of the Titans. You also have to be quite careful there that you don't accidentally take the Breathe Fire potion and it expires, because it will fear you. And I've had before where you actually get feared outside during the fight and it resets and you have to start again. You've wasted your orb. You really don't want to be in that situation. So make sure you cancel the Breathe Fire buff if it looks like it will proc during that fight, if it looks like it will expire. So that was one of the more risky fights there. So I'm just melding through that pack, and we're just going to do this mini boss before doing the other lost area. So if we get through Rexar, we're feeling much more confident. That was definitely one of the most risky places here. And the other lost area is this second riskier place. So if we could get through that area, then we're pretty much home free. The Rexar fight at the end is not particularly difficult compared to the two lost areas. So not much to look out for with this guy apart from his Surging Fist. We want to get out of the way. Then he does this Decimator, which is that blue thing. It's like a boomerang effect. If you get caught on the way back, you take some sanity damage. Just avoid those mechanics. And we want to kill this guy. We want to be 100% sanity, which we are. So in this area, we might use our second orb. So to be safe, our second orb will be reserved for here. And our last one into Thrall. So you have to be quite careful in this zone during split personality weeks and Leaden Foot. You also have to be quite careful not to ninja pull any packs here, because they do hit really hard and it's not too difficult to wipe if you're not careful. So you have to be quite cautious here. One pack at a time is most definitely safer. The time you save is just not worth it by trying to pull too many packs. So we're going to switch back to our AoE corruptions and trinkets here. And as usual, we take out the dominators first. Definitely interrupt the touch of the abyss. So this mini boss coming up, the coagulated horror, we have to be quite careful during Leaden Foot and split personality. Sometimes split personality will proc just as we have to move out. We definitely don't want to get caught in it. And with Leaden Foot, we have to be careful on the number of stacks we build up, so that we're not at maximum stacks when we have to move out of the way, for example. So we're going to start this fight here, and we're going to meta off that sanguine residue, and we just have to be ready to move there. And if we proc, so we're going to proc here, and then we have to, yeah, just like that, quickly move out of the way. So sometimes the two events will come really close together, and you have to make sure that you can move out of the way fast enough. It's definitely worth using some cooldowns for this particular encounter, because if you're not careful, you can take a large amount of sanity damage there. So we're just going to eat a kebab here, and that'll pretty much take us to 100% sanity. So we've just got 2 packs left before the next mini boss. And I'd still recommend pulling these one by one. These appendages, when they borrow and they come out with the brown swirlies, can do a lot of damage. And if you pull both packs, you can actually die to damage here quite easily. So it's definitely worth pulling one pack at a time. Got caught there, my split personality is not ideal, but it's also no problem. Okay, so now we're going to kill this pack here, and then we have our Void Crazed Hulk. And with Void Crazed Hulk, we have to be quite careful again during split personality, because he'll do a knockback effect, and then he will leap into you with an explosive leap. Now, if split personality spawns around you and he does his knockback effect, you'll get knocked through your images and then disorientated. And then he will leap onto you for 60 sanity drain. So sometimes that'll be really difficult to avoid, because your split personality will proc very shortly before he does his knockback, and you won't have time to react. But if possible, you definitely want to move out of split personality here as soon as possible, so that you're not knocked back. So move out now. Knocked back, and you want to move out of that swirly. So that brown swirly there does 60 sanity drain. We definitely don't want to get caught up in that. The risk of dying to damage here is quite low. It's just the sanity drain that's a risk. So here I walk into my images, and then I'm going to get leaped. I managed to get out just in time. So it's going to proc here, and I think I get knocked back very shortly after they proc. And then I take a large amount of sanity damage. So we definitely want to start this fight with plenty of sanity, because the initial 30 sanity drain from the knockback is unavoidable, and then sometimes the 60 drain thereafter is also very difficult to avoid. So this would be where I ideally use my second orb. I think for this run I didn't use my second orb, but to be safe I would have orbed into this boss here. I'm going to meta the first defining ground, and you could pop all your cooldowns here because there won't be a big encounter coming up for a while, so it's definitely worth popping all cooldowns you have left remaining. The only thing to watch out for here is the defiled ground. Don't get too close to that edge over there, because if you get a split personality proc, your only way out would be down the hill, and then you would ninja pull that pack. So just keep it out in the middle, keep an eye on the split personality, and avoid the defiled ground. If you proc Gift of the Titans, just zerg DPS as much as you can. It's definitely worth having a Drainic Living Action potion for that fight, in case you do get a really bad split personality proc and it's really difficult to avoid the defiled ground. If you do get caught, it's nice to be able to break out of that stun. So that was the other really difficult area. So once we've done both those areas, the rest of the vision is much easier, and we're not at particularly high risk from anything else except the final boss fight. This next zone is not too difficult, as long as we pull the packs one by one. So we're just going to go and do the totems. Now across from here you can see the other NPC which spawns, and this is the worst one to get because it's all the way at the very end. It's after all of the difficult encounters, but it's probably still worth doing anyway, just for that final fight, just to get a little bit of damage, extra damage onto Thrall. So once we've done these two totems, she does a polymorph, but it's not particularly high risk. It doesn't really do any damage or sanity drain. You'll take a little bit of sanity drain from your burnt bridge, but and then I think you get run speed and 10% haste buff from this one, so it's still worth doing. And this zone is pretty standard. In a 5-master solo, I'd probably pull all of these at once, but in this case, I'll just do it one at a time. Okay, so we're going to do the Oblivion Elemental. I just forgot one totem back then. And we're feeling fairly confident here with half HP. This guy is quite easy. We don't need more than half a sanity bar for this. I'm actually going to meta this hopelessness. For both this and the Thrall fight, if you have a metamorphosis, you can actually use it on the hopelessness, and then you don't have to run to your soul. I don't know if it works with other immunities. So now we've done all of the side zones, and we have 2 orbs left here. So we have the option, if we want, to go back and collect any missing crystals, any chests, if we so wish. So I think I will use one of my orbs here just to go back and collect any crystals. So I'm just gonna skip through this in the video. It's pretty routine. There's a good add-on called Handy Notes Visions of N'Zoth, which shows you where all the crystals spawn. But I'm just going to skip this section now. So now we've done all of our crystals. We used our one orb to gather everything. So we're just going to hand in our crystals. And then we're going to start our final boss encounter. So the only difference between this and the solo run is that obviously Thrall has a lot more HP. Now just take this particular fight quite slow. The probability of dying here to sanity drain is much higher than to damage, but the passive sanity drain in this zone is extremely low, so it's only really the mechanics you get caught up in. So just taking it slow and making sure we don't get caught up in any mechanics. So we're going to orb into here and we're going to use our drums, and we're going to immediately start doing damage to Thrall. We want to take out these boards as soon as possible as well. Now our partner could do damage if they wish for as long as they can live. It might be beneficial in some cases for a particularly low level character to stay as a healer or tank spec if you don't think they'll contribute 12.5% or 21% of the damage. It might be better just to have lower HP. So as long as we avoid this defiled ground here and we avoid all of this stuff on the floor, we could just take it slowly, and pretty much as in a solo mask, it just takes a little bit longer here. It's worth having the Drainic living action potions in case we get caught up in the defiled ground. So just move out of the way there. Stand inside its promised power. And that's pretty much the fight and the run. So once this is done, our partner will be able to loot the main chest. For the side chests, they would have had to have come to those areas. But our partner will now be able to loot the main chest and get the 470 corrupted item. So that was a 5-mask carry for the Horrific Vision of Ogrimmar. I hope to do one of these for Stormwind soon. Thank you all for watching.